Roll call. Chair Edwards. Here. Vice Chair Morse.
Here.
Commission members Ball.
Here.
And Mendoza.
Here.
Thank you.
Hi, Bill. All discretionary actions before the Historic Preservation Commission are advisory in nature, and final actions will be confirmed, modified, or deleted by the City Council. Public comments. This is a time persons viewing and wishing to address the Historic Preservation Commission regarding matters not on the agenda may be heard via an email sent to the Deputy City Clerk. Do we have any emails?
We have received none.
Thank you. Consent items. Does any commission member wish to pull any consent item for discussion, or are there any public comments via email requesting to pull an item?
No public comments.
Okay, nobody's pulling any consent item. May I get a motion to approve the consent item? Anyone? I motion to approve the consent item. Can I get a second? Second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent item, which happens to be the minutes of your September 8, 2020 meeting. Roll call. Commission members Ball.
Yes.
Mendoza.
Yes.
Vice Chair Morse. Yes. And Chair Edwards.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed.
Okay. I approve the minutes for September 8th meeting. Agenda for discussion action items. Order of presentation for discussion items. 1, staff report presentation. 2, commission questions of staff. 3, public speakers in favor, against, neutral. 4, commission discussion and action. Staff report presentation. First.
Yes, I think the mic is on. What we have before us today is the annual CLG report. It's essentially a report that documents what we did during the past year as a certified local government. And what I'm looking for today is for any comments or additions or corrections that you might have to the report.
Okay, everybody was mailed a copy of this. Did anyone not have a chance to look at the information on here and make sure it's correct? Any changes? We didn't really have too much training because of COVID.
Right. There was one meeting where I explained how the mitigation measures worked in relation to CEQA, and so I consider that to be a training opportunity.
Right. So we qualified for our training, and then we have everybody's certifications here, and Did you all have a chance to look at your paperwork and make sure there was no mistakes? Hopefully. I think it's probably right, Bill, if it's like last time.
It's a pretty standard thing that we do
Yeah.
every year.
And I think, Gabriel, this is your first time to do this. So, did you need anything extra from Gabriel?
No, I got the thank you to Gabriel and to Jamie for getting your resumes to us.
Okay.
Those are the two things that I needed to
I
get
guess
that didn't have last year.
Okay. Well, good we managed to get some training, even in the COVID. Do we need to make a motion to approve the...
Yes, you need to make a motion to
And
approve.
could I ask just a question, just
Sure.
for their benefit? Sometimes they do the training, on the California Historic Preservation. Does that count at all towards
Yes.
training?
Yes, it does count. Anybody that took
Guys,
a
do that.
seminar.
Make sure you send him a note to say, hey, by the way, I took this on this day, so he can record it
Yes,
for
please.
next
Right.
year.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I just thought, because I know someone had asked me before, and I thought, yeah, probably, but I wanted
Yeah.
to make sure.
Yeah, there are webinars that happen all year long. Anybody that takes one, just let me know.
I think last year we had a couple, and I think maybe the year before that, Diane and I did a couple together,
Yeah.
and they counted.
Right.
Yeah, but you need to let him know so he
Right.
can record it to this report.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know there's quite a few. I get emails from them like at least once a week.
Yeah, I see them.
Okay, very
Unfortunately,
good.
some of them don't really apply to us, but they are really interesting.
That's what I figure, so I'm always forwarding them.
Thanks.
Yeah, if something comes up that I think is really relevant to the commission, I'll let you know and suggest you take the
You
training.
watched that too?
Right.
Oh, good, okay. All right, and that concludes, can I make a motion to, what am I,
To approve the report.
approve the certified local government program for the year 2019 and 2020 by Bill.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the report. Roll call, we'll go with commission members Ball,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Vice Chair Morse, and Chair Edwards.
Yes,
Thank you, motion pass.
and just to be clear for the new people, like Jamie and Gabriel, why do we do this?
We are a certified local government, which means we meet the standards of the federal government for a certified historic preservation program. And every year we have to submit this report to show that we're keeping our status up as a certified local government. There are certain things that we need to do to keep our status up as a CLG. So that's what this report does, is it lets them know every year that we're meeting all the requirements to remain a CLG.
And that's required for us to have a historic preservation commission.
No, it's not required to have an historic preservation commission, but it does show that we have a program that meets the federal standards for an historic preservation program. So it's important that we have that and that we are recognized for that, because there are a lot of cities that don't have that. I think at the time that we got our CLG approval, there were about 125 cities in California that had one, so really not that many as far as all cities in California.
Okay, makes us more legit.
It does, exactly.
Okay, just so you know the background on that.
Bill, you might take a moment and explain just what CLG does, what the advantages are of being CLG.
One of the main advantages of being a CLG is that we qualified to have grants once a year. We can apply for a grant. And we did our first 2 surveys of the community's history using CLG grants. And they're 60-40 matches, so it's 60% the federal government provides and 40% we have to provide in some form. It can be in-kind services or it can be cash. And for the most part in the past, we've done it with in-kind services. We have a CLG grant this year for $8,800, I think it is, or $8,300. And we're using that to bring our previous surveys, getting all the things that needed to be kind of worked out and sorted through, taken care of. For example, there were a number of properties that had not been surveyed because they weren't either accessible or we didn't have enough information to give them any kind of a historic status code. So we're going back and looking at all those properties and giving them a status code. Just a lot of cleanup work that's being done with the current grant that we have.
And you applied for that grant?
Right, yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So important. Thank you.
That's the main benefit of being a CLG, is that you
Yeah.
have that available. Plus, there's a CLG listserv, which is an internet group, and you can pose questions on that internet group. And for example, with the thing I'll be talking about in a minute, which is the Equestrian-Themed Historic District, I posed a couple of questions to the group, and so it goes out to all these cities, and a number of them responded and gave me the information I was looking for. So that's another benefit of being a CLG.
That's awesome. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Bill. Okay, so the next thing on our list is commission questions of staff. Or are you no. Oh, he's, okay. Okay, number 5. Okay, subcommittees. Collection Advisory Subcommittee report. That's us. That's Carolyn and I. Okay, so we do our report for the meeting. Since it's been so long and we kind of had to go over what we've done before because it was a long time, and went through the minutes from the last year that you provided to us, and so I kind of noticed there were several things that we had to sort of remind ourselves what we were doing, and I just came up with some housekeeping things, mostly not really questions, just sort of concerns that we, things that we were working on that we just kind of left hanging because of the COVID stuff. I wanted to ask, and I'm not sure if this is a appropriate time, but we never had a final follow-up to find out what happened with our mitigation measures for Palomino Park.
This is not an appropriate time to do that.
Okay,
It is not on your agenda.
so that,
Not an answer question segment. You're just providing an update on what the subcommittee has been working on, if anything.
okay, but if I want to, so I can put that on the agenda for next time.
No, what you can do is call the staff and ask the staff for an update, and they can tell you what's going on. Either Roger or Andy.
Oh, okay. And then how do I relay that to the rest of the committee?
I think you need to speak with them first before there's anything to relay.
Okay, because we have a lot invested in that and we didn't really know what happened. Okay, and the Eisen Ranch, we heard that several people, including Bill and Kevin, Chuck, and the developer, and Kathy Azevedo, went to the Eisen Ranch and walked around, took some pictures, and...
I'm sorry, Chair. Is this an update for your subcommittee of what
Yeah.
the subcommittee has done?
Well, this is what's happened since we met last, and this is
Something-
just
but you're referring
information.
to something that others have done. This is supposed to be what you two have done as a subcommittee.
Well, we did discuss the properties that were coming over to our heritage room. We need to talk about how we're going to store those and when they're arriving and things like that.
Roger, can you clarify what I'm trying to say? It's just an update, not a request.
I think what what you're referring to now, the activities of the, in the historic room, you're archiving, that is a legitimate, yeah, no, she's, no, I think,
Okay.
those other items were kind of beyond your committee's purview, but what you're talking about now is
Okay.
perfect.
Because they went, several people as a group went over there and they walked around with the developer and...
Well, no, not that one, but.
Well, no,
Yeah.
they discussed they discussed and looked at and took pictures of items on the property that they want to bring to the heritage room. And apparently they took pictures and tagged certain things, like the egg tracker and things that are coming over to our room. So we'd just like to know what's the status of that and when we should expect those things in order to plan for storage and that. If there's any way to know if they have removed those items from that property yet to bring to us. Our heritage room is really getting packed. So it'd be nice to know if we have some things coming in. We need to know when and okay. And let's see. Also, there was some concern at the community center for a rodent problem that I don't think we've been affected by. The rest of the community center has had some people come in to try to get rid of that problem. Fortunately, I don't think they've made it into our heritage room. So we're kind of on the lookout for that. We had continuing questions about a new alarm system. And I think the last I heard about this, I think Brian said he would be able to maybe get us that in January of this year. I just wanted to check up on that and see if we can get that alarm system. I'd like to know what the status of that is. And basically we are working very hard every Friday. We're going back to normal hours, thanks to Crystal. And we're going to be taking in more and more of Kevin Bash's collection. He's brought us a lot already. The floor is covered with his collection, and we're going to have storage problems there. We're going to have to work on what's happening next. That's why I was kind of asking about what's going on with the mitigation stuff, because we were going to expand this and that. It affects us greatly. And we work every Friday over there. We're working very hard. We're putting in lots of data into the computers. We're putting things in boxes and sorting them out. We're doing the best job that we can with the people that we have. I'm really proud of Chuck and Carolyn. Thank you for being there every week. And I think that's about all I have for our subcommittee report, unless you have something to add, Carolyn, since we're on the same. Okay. And next is Outreach Subcommittee.
I don't have anything to report at this time. We got our resumes to Bill, and unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't really been able to do anything or outreach anywhere. So no new news at this time.
Okay. Bill, do you think you might be wanting to implement something?
I'll be getting the committee together sometime in the near future, because some of the things I'm doing with this grant have relations to what the committee is there for. So you'll be getting together with me probably in the next month or so.
Exactly. And did you still want to try to work with the planning department on that, how they are able to recognize historical aspects of the planning?
Part of what I'll be doing with the grant work is to formalize an historic register. And with that historic register, the planning people and the building people will have information that they can use to figure out if what they're dealing with as far as building permits and planning actions have anything to do with historic resources. So that'll be part of what I'll be doing with the grant.
Okay.
And that's where the committee is going to come into
Right.
into
I know
play.
That's something you've been wanting to do for a long time.
Yeah, it has been, yes.
Okay, so that next we have collections or cultural resource consultant report.
Okay, a couple of things. The big thing that's going on right now, and unfortunately, because the commission didn't have a quorum for their last meeting, is sort of taking you guys out of sync on this. But the council has asked that I develop a equestrian-themed historic district. And this is going to be quite a big deal. It's going to involve over 6,000 properties in the city. And it'll be a historic district that basically celebrates Norco's equestrian heritage. The basic components of the historic district are going to be equestrian trails and trail fencing, parks with equestrian amenities, and large lots are going to be the basic components of the district. It is not going to deal with architecture or individual properties on any kind of a more detailed level other than talking about lot size. So there won't be any architectural review required of properties in the district. And individual property owners will basically have no difference when the district is put into effect versus what they simply have to deal with right now, which is the zoning code. I've moved along quite nicely with that. I've got a report 95% completed on it. I worked through the ordinance, and I've developed an ordinance that establishes an equestrian-themed historic district. Actually, it establishes the provisions for creating an historic district in the first place, and then from that, the equestrian-themed historic district gets created. So it'll be quite a big deal when it does come to the commission. A very aggressive program. Two of the concerns that brought this about, number one, is that the city really feels as though it needs to celebrate its equestrian heritage through the establishment of an historic district. The other factor that's driving this is state legislation that would allow people to do lot splits without the benefit of any review. They could do it as a matter of right. And it would be irregardless of zoning or anything like that. So, for example, if the zoning requires a half an acre lot, and someone wants to split the lot in half, the state legislation says you can do that. The concern that the council has is that if that begins to happen in the animal keeping areas, it'll reduce the viability of keeping animals on those properties, because if you get down to a quarter of an acre, you really can't keep a horse on a quarter of an acre. That's just way too small. So the legislation as it's being proposed right now, and it hasn't been adopted yet, but the proposed legislation would exempt historic districts from those requirements. So putting all the horse keeping properties in an historic district would exempt these properties from the allowance of allowing people to split lots as a matter of right. So it's really a big deal for the city because of that. And that'll be coming to the commission at a future meeting when I've got the report ready to be reviewed. The other thing, just to mention, that has been going on, just to kind of address a concern that you raised just a minute ago, Teresa, is with regard to the Palomino Ranch property. The mitigation measures will not be implemented until the developer provides the money that's behind it. And so far, the developer hasn't provided the money that would implement those things. So it's kind of in a limbo right now, waiting for the developer to come forth with the money. And I'm not sure that the city's actually requested that it be submitted. I'm not trying to say the developer's not doing something they've been asked to do, but until that money comes in, the mitigation measures that we've approved would not be addressed until that actually happens.
That's, as far as I know, that's $2 million to be paid at the time the permits are issued.
I don't know what the amount is. Do you know what it is, Roger?
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Okay.
So we had, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you another question about Palomino Park. Okay.
Okay, so another issue that's come up that I'm working with Andy on is that when Palomino Park went to the city council, when our report went to the city council, I actually didn't write the report. It was written by planning. And planning left out two of the recommendations that the commission made for the developer to implement. So I'm trying to work out something with Andy so we can just bring the developer in and have him implement those recommendations, because the council never saw them, actually.
What were the two recommendations?
One of them had to do with archaeological surveys of the property, or archaeological monitoring on the property. The other one had to do with the farmhouse on the property. That's a really good example of a Orchard Heights or Orange Heights farmhouse. It's beautifully intact. It was built in 1915. And it's going to be demolished, but I would like to get a HABS report done on that. And just for the benefit of the new commission members, what a HABS report is, it's an historical American building survey. And what it does is it documents the building in detail with photographs, drawings of the site plan, things of that nature.
HABS?
Pardon me?
Is that the HABS?
That's a HABS report, Historic American Building Survey. So that got left out of the planning department's report, and I think that gap needs to be filled somehow.
So you gave a presentation to the planning department?
I didn't do the presentation for Palomino. That was done by Steve King. I was at the meeting, but I didn't make a presentation.
Your presentation was postponed in October, wasn't it?
The way that the city does these things, planning actually sort of takes everything from the various interests, like the horse trails people and historic preservation and that sort of thing, and melds it all into one report and then presents that to the city council. And so that was presented by planning. It was not presented by me. I didn't make any presentation.
So they can change it?
Well, they didn't change it. They just omitted something accidentally.
Okay. That's too bad.
Huh?
Okay, anything else?
Well, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you so much. Collections Management Consultant, Chuck Wilson.
In a word, if you looked at things since our last meeting, it would be visits. We paid a visit to the Eisen Ranch, and Kevin Bash paid several visits to us. Let's talk about the Eisen Ranch visit, though. Very helpful in looking at things that were there. They were kind enough to allow us to get in and indicate things that we would be interested in for preservation, for use in exhibits and such. The representative of the developer was very cooperative. Whatever you wanted, that was fine. Until the end, where things kind of fell apart, and I do have a concern. These items, which I think were for grading eggs, I'm not sure about that, but I think that's what they were stacked on skids about 4 feet high, and shrink wrap was around them. I indicated to the representative of the developer that yes, we certainly would be interested in these. He said, sure, no problem, we can do that, which he said for everything that we indicated an interest for. And it happened shortly before I was to leave. I went back into the facility, and the people that were charged with cleaning out the facility were in the process of removing the skids full of these. The rep from the developer was nowhere near that. He was on the far extreme site part of the property, and obviously was more than happy to say, yes, sure, we'll do this. I'm concerned that the yes, sure, we'll do this results in actually seeing things from the developer, and that our desire for things gets not only communicated, but acted upon positively with the developer. There are a number of things that would, for lack of a better term, be cool exhibits that they indicated, sure, they would be willing to provide for us. One is a message board, and it's just one of these things that nothing more than a piece of wall where they just tacked up all these messages, and the developer rep said, sure, we'll just cut that out and send that to you. Another is a panel from a room that we, at this point, really don't know what it was used for, but it's got a different paneling to it. It's got insulation in it, and so we have that. Another is a very large door that looks like it went to a refrigeration unit perhaps of some sort. And again, these are going to be significant items. They certainly will make good exhibit items. Hopefully, we'll actually see these and that the developer will remember that we've designated these things for future exhibit use. And a third is the rack. There's a rack, pipe rack that goes about 3/4 of the length of the building, Bill, on a kind of a oblong shape. We're not entirely sure just what it's used for, but it's certainly a distinctive feature, and we've indicated we want about 20 feet of this or so, along with the part of the curved part of it, so it can be on display over at the community center. So at this point, I'm just hopeful that sure, we'll do that for you. It comes into reality and we actually see these things, because they'll make for a great display. And I think part of the mitigation bill, is it not, for a display for the Eisen Ranch? It seemed to me that there was funding that was listed for that. So we hope to be able to do that. The Kevin Bash situation is, again, you kind of have to be careful what you wish for. There is probably nobody on earth that has a better collection of Norco history materials than Kevin has. And you're probably well aware that almost any time somebody says, well, what about this or what about that, the answer is, ask Kevin. He's written books on it, he's done extensive research, he has an extensive collection of materials, and for some time he said, sure, I'll get that to you. Now the time has come where he is indeed getting it to us. And we see Kevin on a regular basis. And you never know what Kevin is going to bring. I guess last week, well, I guess the week before, he came by with this item, which is an item from the Lake Norconian Institution. You can pass that around. We're speculating on what it might have been used for, a serving dish of some sort, perhaps. Diane thinks it's a cigar ashtray, which it might be as well. It's hard to tell. If you look at the one side of the tray, that's what it looked like before we put some polish to it. Yes, exactly, Jamie. That was the thought, that the centerpiece there would be supporting a cigar. That's an awfully big tray for a cigar, but who knows? So there's this sort of thing. There are plenty of manuscript materials that he's bringing to us. There are films, there are negatives, there are photos. We're processing this as it comes in and developing an inventory on it. When we get that completed, we'll send the inventory on to Diane so that the city can section this stuff properly. But until that time, it's just we're in the process of getting it identified. We're identifying his material pretty much on an individual item basis, because we anticipate that is where it will be asked.
Yeah, we were there when it
That
was
people will be asking for, do you have a photo of this, or do you have a photo of the Norco parade in 1955, or whatever it might be. And as a result, it's to our advantage to identify that as best we can when we put it into the database, and so that's what we're currently doing. The other side of the coin, of course, is we're going to need supplies. And we're going to need a lot more supplies than we had anticipated, because our anticipation had been things would come to us on a gradual basis from the community and from the people in Norco and from the people that had some indication of a relationship to Norco. Now we're getting boxes and boxes, literally plastic storage bins rather than boxes of material from Kevin, and he's indicated it will be coming on a regular stream. So at the present, we probably have enough in our stacks or supplies for record storage boxes, which are the cubic foot boxes that we use for most of the supplies, to last until the beginning of the new fiscal year. But at that point, we'll have to do a significant increase in the number of supplies that we purchase just for housing those things. And of course, you're looking at a different situation when you look at something like those artifacts that we would be housing in containers that are different than what we use for the records that are manuscript type records. So there may be some specialists there as well. In terms of the facility, we've talked, I think, a number of times about the need for UV ultraviolet filters for the lights. We did ultraviolet film on the upper portion of the windows, but we have not done that on the lights. You can tell the fading has been significant on some of the material that we have on the displays. This is not original material, this is material that was reproduced, but nonetheless, the fade factor is significant. It certainly would be much less if the tubes, and if you look at the lights above here, this is essentially what we have, except on a smaller scale. So what you would do is purchase shields for those tubes. So they simply go around the tubes and provide then the UV protection that you need. Ballpark probably costs about $400 to do all the tubes that are in the area in which we work and which the displays are currently situated. Also, we've never resolved the heat and air situation in the building. We've been very fortunate in that the weather has been favorable, but if the cold weather comes to us, that's not a work environment in which we can provide really appropriate conditions for working. And I have no idea where that stands, but I would just let people know that that is an ongoing concern. I should revise things a little bit, and Commissioner Edwards, it's kind of implied that the floors were covered with Kevin's material. They're not, but there is Kevin material on the floor. They're not because of the recently purchased shelving that was installed, and most of his material has gone on to that shelving. So we don't have enough for all of it, but we have the majority of it on shelves. And of course, he's working to bring things in, as I say, on a regular basis every week. And it's always interesting because Kevin comes with full knowledge of whatever he brings us. And so we get a rundown of what it is and the importance and that sort of thing. He did indicate when he was there, I think a week ago, that the database that we're using is pretty much compatible with what he's been using. So we should be able to match the two fairly easily. In terms of processing, we are currently in the midst of putting up processing. We've got 4 processing stations. In addition to Kevin's material, we're processing material from the Chamber of Commerce and from the Women's Club. We finished processing the Pony Express negatives that we had kind of just laying it around, I'm afraid. And it's back in its appropriate containers and archivally safe. And as far as we're concerned in anything else, I think we just are going to move forward. I should mention that each of the workstations is entering data on a thumb drive, which then is incorporated into the master, so that there is a overall database for what we've done and where we're going and where it's located, and to the extent we can, date span with it as well. That's about it.
Thank you. Items for future consideration. I have one. Does anybody have any items that they would like to put on the agenda for 2 months from now? Carolyn? Chuck? Oh, okay. Okay. The thing that I would like to put on the next agenda for sure is the status of the new separate alarm system for the historic room. Since we're kind of,
You need to get a vote,
Sure,
a motion and a second and a vote.
sure.
To add something.
I just wanted to, say that there's a need for a separate alarm system there, because sometimes when we can't have Crystal or any of her staff, we still want to work.
Okay, that's discussion you can say for that. No discussion. You want to put that on, now you take a vote, and that's it. That's the end of it.
Okay. Well, just so they know what they're voting for.
An alarm system.
I would like to make a motion to put the discussion of a update on the new alarm system at the historical room on the agenda for January, February, March, April, May.
May 11th.
Can I have a second?
Can I ask a question? Is there already an alarm system?
Can I answer? That's what I was.
There's for the entire building.
This is for a separate alarm
Requesting
system?
it's been asked for a separate alarm system. She's requesting that a staff report provide an update on the status of getting that separate alarm system.
Okay, I'll second.
You.
Okay,
Can we have a vote?
okay, vote yes. Commission members Ball,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Vice Chair Morris,
Yes.
and Chair Edwards.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed 4-0, and we'll put that on the next agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else have anything to share, or would you like to discuss anything
No, just
on the
share.
future agenda? Okay. Just making sure.
Okay.
Okay, and the last thing says, ask Roger Grody for any staff updates.
Yep.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay, I guess that concludes our meeting for March 9th, 2021. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and this meeting is adjourned at 4:49.